Flosstube. Hello, my name is Karo, and yeah, I thought I'd give this whole Flosstube thing a go because I've been going down a massive rabbit hole since, yeah, basically the new year, I guess, when all the whip parades came out on YouTube. And I've been watching quite a few of those, and the stitching bug totally got me, and it got me so much that I thought, I want to be part of this. I want to do a Flosstube too. So if you've been following me so far, I'm terribly sorry. There won't be any knitting, but there's a little bit of a sneak peek for my next episode, because we'll be still doing knitting podcasts, but yeah, I'm just very distracted right now. So I decided to put it on the same channel because I don't think it makes sense to separate it out. It probably will be combined in the future anyways, but right now I'm just full on floss. So I'm just doing a Flosstube. We don't know how long this whole phase will take hold, but right now that's my jam. So just skip to the next video if this is not your cup of tea, or I don't know if it's the next video, but I hope so. It's just also very hard for me to find a time to sit down and film these days. We have a very busy week. So there's only the weekends that I can potentially film, and usually there's like a sick kid or we're doing something outside. The spring is slowly showing his face, her face. Spring male or female? I don't know. But yeah, the sun's coming out, so we like to go outside these days if we can. So yeah. But today is super gray and foggy and wet. We kind of missed our opportunity yesterday, but we had plans yesterday, so we couldn't really go outside. So too bad. But now we're inside. My son Yona is doing his nap. My husband decided to join him, and my daughter Lana is watching her Sunday movie. So that gave me a bit of time to do this. So yes, thank you guys for coming here and watching my first Flosstube. And since it is my very first one, I'm already sweating. I wanted to put this on because I'm so happy with this, but it's actually very, very warm. This is, by the way, is the comfy, no, what is it? The Big Cozy Cardi by Andrea Mowry. And I made this and I just finished this. It's probably the only thing that, sorry, I just kicked the tripod, that I got finished last year. But we're not here to talk about the knitting today, but I'm still very happy with this. But I might take it off at some point because I'm already getting pretty hot here. I'm so excited though. Yes, did I say my name is Karo? Usually this is the Kirsch podcast. We can still call it the Kirsch podcast. It's still my channel, and I'm still technically podcasting, video casting. It's not really a podcast, but in the knitting world, we call it a podcast. In the Flosstube world, is it a Flosstube? I don't know. What is it? What is one video? Is it a podcast too? It's an episode. It's an episode. Okay, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm already totally lost. I had this great plan of how I want to do this, and now I'm already totally lost in what I do. So I have not a massive pile of things to show you because I virtually just kind of fell into cross stitch, which is technically not exactly true because my knitting followers will know I did talk about cross stitch before, kind of in my random other crafts at the end of the knitting podcast. But I don't know. I just kind of fell hard now. Back then, like a year ago, basically exactly a year ago, Christmas 2022, my aunt pointed out that she really liked a table runner, a Christmassy table runner from my mom, which was printed, but it was printed in a cross stitch and embroidery kind of combo optic, and she just said she really liked it. And then I was like, well, that looks like I could do that. So I thought I could cross stitch that for her. I never started that last year, but I started cross stitching anyways. I don't know how that makes sense, but that's how it happened. So I thought I would just show you everything I have related to cross stitch because it's not that much. I have the fear it's gonna get much more. Oh no, my phone's back there. I'm gonna need that because yeah, there's just a few patterns. Okay, I'm all over the place already. So let me talk you through what my plan is for today. So I wanted to do a finish parade, which is exactly one object. So I'm just gonna show you my one finish that I did last year. Then I'm gonna show you my works in progress, which is 3 currently. And then I'm probably going to talk about a few plans. And one of the works in progress is actually on kind of hibernation mode right now because I'm totally nerding out on that one. You'll probably hear way too much detail about that, but like that's just consuming me. Like my brain's just consumed with this one project, and it's somewhere on the verge of pure enjoyment and ecstasy and total utter annoyance because I can't stop thinking about it, and I have to kind of get going with this and actually get it to a place where I can start stitching. I think then I'll relax a bit more about that project, but I'll tell you about that at the end, or at the end of my whips, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I guess you guys want to see something. So let me show you my very first FFO, is how you guys call it, fully finished object, because I decided to make a project bag for my knitting projects. This just contains some yarn for a hopefully potentially future sweater of mine. But yes, probably many of you will recognize this pattern as the Poisonous Plant by the Witchy Stitcher. And I really love it. And yeah, I honestly don't know what the pattern called for. I can only tell you what I ended up doing. So I stitched this on Black Ada, 14 count. And I tried to get, so the thing is, I'm in Germany, right? And in Germany, if you go into a local store, the floss you tend to find isn't DMC, it's from Anchor. And I didn't really have any clue. I mean, I was aware that DMC has these color codes. I knew that from diamond painting, actually, because they use the same kind of colors. But yeah, I went into that local store of mine, which was actually closing down, so I got the floss for a good deal. And the lady in there, so I had my list of colors I needed for this, and the lady in there, she did like a color transversion from the DMC to the Anchor. So I could pick out the colors from her Anchor collection, but since she was closing down and was selling off stuff, she was out of a lot of colors. So I ended up just kind of matching to what I thought was good. So this is probably not really what is called for the colors, but I tried to kind of stay close to her suggestions, I guess. I think it's not a regret, but what I would make different if I did this again, I think the 2 greens didn't have quite as much contrast as they did in her finish, but I think it's still nice. You can still see it's a little bit more subtle, the effect. But I still like how this came out, so I stitched this 2/1 on 14 count Ada, and yeah, finished it into a project bag. Done by me. What did I do inside? I don't know. I think it's the same as the bag fabric. I'm not a very good project bag maker, so this zipper is stuck a little bit. I think I got too close. Yes, I did. Great. Wow. It's open enough to show you the inside, so it's just the same inside. And yeah, I'm really happy. I thought I was super smart doing this, putting this cross stitch into a project bag, because I mean, back then I wasn't really watching that many floss tubers, and I guess that's also the reason why I didn't really get into it, because I don't know, the ones I did watch, they were all kind of stitching to put it up on their wall, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of stuff on my walls, and the main reason for that is I have a hard time finding things I really like to put on my wall. So I'm very selective. I find things easily way too kitschy. But that's not necessarily the point of cross-stitching. I had exactly the same problem a year ago with the diamond painting. I just never really liked the finished things you would get, you know? It's fun to do it, but then what do you do with a thing? Because I wouldn't want to put it up on my wall, this glittery, sparkly thing. So I think that's why that one didn't stick. But the longer I look, the more cool patterns I find, and also patterns that I would want to put up on my wall. So that's already something I'm really enjoying, kind of diving deeper into this world of cross stitch. But anyway, so I thought I was super smart in putting this into like a project bag. I didn't really see anybody doing it, like, and I did notice that Flosstubers also have these crazy project bags with like the vinyl clear one side, but then they have like a fabric other side, and I was like, why don't you just put your cross stitch in there? You could even put it in the inside. You would still see it through the vinyl stuff, and then it's sort of protected. But then I watched a few more Flosstubes, and it seems to be more like the cross stitches people don't like that they put into a project bag, and it's like, I don't really like it. What can I do with it? Well, I guess I can make a project bag out of it. So I don't know. This seems to be the waste product thing. At least that's the sense I got from the few times somebody did this and mentioned and talked about it, and was like, oh, I'm really proud of this cross stitch. I really don't think it's a waste product. I'm really happy. I think this way it gets used and it gets seen. So yay, I'm really happy. So don't think I put this into a project bag because I thought I didn't like it. I'm really, really happy with it. But yeah, this is not what started my knitting bug. Did I say this is by the Witchy Stitcher? I think I did. So yeah, yay, fully finished object. And with this pattern together, I bought actually a second one, which is also the other one that I did show in my knitting podcast. And I was stitching on this last summer. We went on a 3-week vacation, to Norway. Sorry, English is not my first language. Sometimes the words just don't make sense in my head. What did I want to say? Yes, so I was mainly stitching on that, which was super surprising to me, because if you know anything about knitting and Norway, you know knitting and Norway kind of go hand in hand. So I was like, beforehand, I was like, yay, I'm going to go to all these woolly yarn stores. I'm going to buy yarn. I'm going to be knitting all the time. And I totally didn't have any knitting mojo when I was in Norway. I was just cross stitching, which was really, really weird. But it was nice because it was like this very small project. Wasn't as warm. We actually had really, really warm temperatures up there, which nobody was expecting. We were going like the end of May, beginning of June. So yeah, that's when I worked on that project the most. And the project I'm talking about is also from the Witchy Stitcher, and it's the what's it called? The Haunted Carousel. I think it's just called Vintage Halloween Carousel. Sorry. Vintage Halloween Carousel. I think the reason why I think it's called the Haunted Carousel is because, and now let me show you what I stitched. You can't see this now. Maybe I'll throw up a mock-up or something, but I think, and I'm not sure if I'm going to actually do that, but you can stitch kind of the title, and I think here it says the Haunted Carousel. So I guess that's why I'm always confused with the title. But yeah, this is how far I am. So last summer I brought this project to, I don't remember exactly, but I think somewhere around the 40% mark. I had a lot of the top part done here, and I think one horse and like these banners and stuff. And basically when I picked it back up in January, when I was binge watching all these Whip Parade, sorry, the neighboring room. By the way, I'm sorry if you can hear my daughter's TV. She's watching her Sunday movie, as I said. So, and I think my husband just came in there. Maybe he could not sleep after all. Anyways, so yeah, so this is where I am now, and I'm basically on the home stretch. I finished all the colors except the black. And so I just have to fill out this bottom thing here. And again, once I'm done with that, I guess I'll look at it and see if I want to continue and stitch the title or if I'm happy with it as is. And I really like it. I really like the color combination on this one, which I already kind of fell in love with when I just saw it on the card. So what I liked to do with my 2 projects that I did so far is make these cards. I mean, I don't really have that much floss. Put these things on here and then just work off of that. I like my strands fairly long, so whenever I can, I do the loop cast on. It's not cast on. Is it called cast on? No, that sounds like a knitting term. The cast on is definitely a knitting term, but loop start. I think you just say loop start. So I just pull out one long thread here and then loop start, and then that's basically the length I have to stitch with, which seems to be kind of double the length. Like YouTubers, when I just watched how to prep a cross stitch product, they kind of cut it, like they fold it once more and then cut it here. But that's too short. Then you have to like constantly change the thread. Oh, my battery is running low. Ooh, I hope I have enough. I have a second one, so we'll hope we go through there. I haven't even really started yet. Sorry. Okay, I'll switch the battery and see you in a second. Okay, so I'm back. So yes, so this is what I'm doing. Actually, the whole braiding thing is a very new thing. I just saw this, actually the, oh, what's her name? Now I forgot her name. Like, I'm obsessed with her channel. She only released her 3rd episode just now. Witchy Stitcher, she's called. Like here. She likes green. Her videos are green. So definitely check her out. But yeah, I saw her on her Instagram. She's braiding these. I think a lot of people are doing this, but it just looked nice for photos. So I just did it for the photo. And then I realized that you can still pull your floss out from the braid. And I thought this is brilliant because then they don't get all messy and tangly. So I'm doing this right now. I have the black one separate right now just because I only use black right now. It's nearly done anyways, and it is a little bit easier to get the thread out when it's like this. And yeah, anyways, I had the black in before when I was still stitching with all the colors, but I really thought that was like a smart way to kind of keep your floss from untangling. And if it does get a little bit messy or unbraids down here, you can just quickly do a new braid and they're all like new and they're super photogenic, because otherwise you just pile a mess of floss on your project and it doesn't really look very attractive. So speaking of which, I do have an Instagram. I'm not very active on there. I always try to be more active, but I end up not being very active. But this is my handle. You're very welcome to follow me there. I do post a lot of things and very, very rarely. But mainly art and knitting and cross stitch now. I think I have one photo of the cross stitch. It's my latest post of this one, actually, when we were out at our favorite tree just on the weekend on a nice sunny day. So yes, and I have my homemade stitch needle minder. That's what it's called. And yeah, I actually bought like a bunch of these like weird animal thingies, like 2 packs, like one colorful rainbowy one and one bluey one, for actually my daughter's shoes. She had trouble closing her shoes because the zipper was just super hard to pull, and so I wanted to give her something more to hold on to. So I bought a bunch of these little ones and attached to a shoe, but I obviously had way more, so I figured I popped some magnets on the back, and now I have needle minders. So yay me. I am a total DIYer. Like, I don't know, I guess if you already follow me on my knitting channel, you know, if there's something you can do yourself and save money doing it, or seemingly save money doing it, I'll probably try and do it myself. Oftentimes you don't really save money because you have to buy stuff in huge amounts, and then you think, well, I can make 12. You only end up making 1, which you then paid double for if you just would have bought it. But you have the potential of making 12 more, and then it would be technically cheaper. So yeah, I guess we all know that way of thinking. But I guess it's also just, I don't know, in German we have a saying, der Weg ist das Ziel, meaning the path is the goal. It's not really the thing that you're making is also just the making, which I guess cross stitch really is. It's not just the finished object you want. It's really just enjoying stitching on it, right? Oh yeah, by the way, the fabric, I haven't said anything about the actual, but that's probably because I don't know. Honestly, I just don't know. I think, you guys tell me. I think this is linen. I'm sorry, you probably can hear my child. And I think it is somewhere around 32 count. I tried measuring it, but yeah, when I bought this on the sale, like on the sold out shop thing, I wasn't aware of all these different things. I just bought something that looked nice, that I thought would be a nice background for this project. So yeah, I think it's 32 count. I think it's linen. And I'm stitching this 2/2 with, again, anchor kind of conversion. I think the black is DMC because she was out of black, understandably, because that's probably one of the first colors people go for when it's on sale. Something's blinking on my camera. Now I'm running out of storage. Great. This is just great. So people, let's just wrap up this little project. So this is my vintage Halloween carousel by the Witchy Stitcher. I'm sorry, probably things shifted around, probably also when I did the battery exchange, but yeah, I had to delete some footage, and I hope now we have enough room and enough battery and get through this without any further interruptions. But yeah, kind of watching now more floss tubes and hear people talk about this, I realized I picked very funny projects for my very first cross stitch. I guess the standard cross stitch starting kit is like white Ada and DMC 2/2 kind of stitching, and my very first project was black fabric, which I hear people rage about being a terrible horrible, although it was 14 count Ada. That's the beginner part. But it was black, so not really something you would probably have somebody start on. And then the second one was a linen, and this one is actually very not even. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, I guess that is a characteristic of linen, that you have thicker and thinner strands. But yeah, it just makes things pretty hard to count. And there is a bunch of mess ups in here, I should probably tell, and if you look closely, but who does? Who does in the end? But I definitely know in, I think, this motif somewhere, like the whole row, I just stitched over 3 instead of over 2. It just happened somewhere, and I didn't want to rip out, because I tend to work like entire lines back and forth as far as I can, you know, and I think I did the 3 thing down here in that black long line, and I didn't want to take the whole line out just to fix this one little mistake. So I just ended up, whatever, making everything 3 stitches wide up here. I think I didn't do it down here. I don't know how it then, I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, it probably created a problem down here then, but I just fudged it. Same, that's something you can actually see, like here's just 1 line of stitches on this side, and on this side is 2, and I first didn't really know where it did the F up, but I think this motif is just too close. If I would take this out and move this over, I could fix this. But again, I figured I'll just finish it and look at it and see if it bugs me, and then I'll decide. But I'm realizing I'm not too perfectionistic with this, which I'm really enjoying, because usually I am very perfectionistic with things. So this is actually giving me quite a bit of joy looking at this and not caring at all that there's a bunch of stitchy mistakes. Maybe if I move on with this, and maybe I get more perfectionistic, but right now I'm like, who cares? Nobody will ever see. And by the way, the plan for this one is also a project bag, because this is a little bit more elongated and narrower. I thought this would be a perfect sock project bag. So that's what the intention with this one is. And yeah, again, with a lot of love in my heart for this project. I really do like it, but I still want to turn it into a project bag, because I don't think it's a place for wasted cross stitches. I think it's just showing more love to it, because then I'll use it for all my knitting projects. So that's great, isn't it? And I would not put this on my wall. I don't know. I mean, I really like it, but I just wouldn't want it on my wall. Not sure why. Not even for Halloween. I mean, that's one day. And I don't know. I mean, I'm in Germany, so the whole Halloween thing is definitely more a North American thing, I think. Or is it in England? I don't know. Are you guys in England super Halloweeny? Are you decked out for Halloween the whole month of October? But yeah, I don't know. We definitely, I didn't grow up with Halloween at all. It's certainly something that kind of came over, and now our kids also dress up and run around for Halloween. And it's super cute. I mean, I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I really like it. I mean, I'm stitching Halloween-y things. I do enjoy that kind of vibe, I guess. But again, I would just not put this on my wall, I think. Maybe I'll change my mind on that. Who knows? You will follow me on that. Anyways, so enough talk about this project. But that's basically what I've been mainly stitching on, I guess, in January. And I guess I can tell you my percentage now, because I do have this in Pattern Keeper. And what's the stats on this one? I'm at 81.3%. And that is with the Haunted Carousel text underneath. Although I didn't mark off a bunch of the black, actually. I'm probably more close to 85, 86% actually. So yes. Nothing precise for me today, I'm sorry. But this is a good project because I have it printed out. Actually, back in July when I was stitching on this, I just stitched off of paper. I know I tried the Pattern Keeper back then, but again, I wasn't really stitching that much, so I didn't really feel like paying to get the full version. And I think I didn't understand that it's just a one-time payment. It's really not that much for what you get. So I have it now. But back then, I just kind of then let the test period run out, and then I didn't have it in Pattern Keeper anymore. So I just stitched off of the paper, which I'm still kind of doing now sometimes. When, I don't know, I'm watching something on my phone, for instance, and I can't also have Pattern Keeper on there. And I don't have like a tablet. I do have a tablet, but it's super, super, super old. And it was like a huge ordeal to even get Pattern Keeper on there. But the Pattern Keeper seems to just always want to pull up Dropbox and find the patterns or the PDFs there. I do have also the patterns that I want to put on Pattern Keeper on that tablet, but for some reason it just wouldn't just look into my file folders. It wants to go via Dropbox, which I even have an account and I could put the things up there, but the Dropbox app on that iPad can't be upgraded because it's too old. So who needed to know that information? Nobody. But that's why I only have my phone, and I'm not that into cross stitch yet that I would buy a tablet just to have Pattern Keeper on a bit of a bigger screen, even though I did research. I did look into it, but then I was like, I don't know if I want to fork out 100 euros right now just for a hobby. So yes, moving on. I did tell you about the initial thing that kind of got me into cross stitch, which I then didn't end up doing, which was that Christmassy table runner my aunt pointed out to me. So I actually have said table runner here. Let me show you somehow. I don't know. It's a table runner, so it's obviously... And sorry, it's been in use for years, eons. It's kind of like a Christmas tradition to put this on. So I'm sorry, it's stained. Yes, stains we can't get out anymore. But yeah, this is the table runner. It is very, very simple. It has just like kind of a, what's this? Gingham, red gingham. And then hang on, that's the wrong side around. So this is the sort of cross stitch print. Sorry, how to show this. So it says Frohe Weihnachten, which means Merry Christmas in German. And as you can see, it's just like this faux cross stitch print look. Like the cross stitches are like even cut off. And then you have like these little symbols embroidered, printed. It's all printed, but it looks like embroidery kind of. So yeah, this is the one she likes, and I figured I can try make this for her. So also when that shop was closing down that I keep mentioning, I also bought things to do this. And one of the things I got, which again, I don't think I even tried measuring the count on this, was like a strip of this. I think this is some kind of linen, like a raw linen. And it's definitely coarser than the Carousel, which I think is a 32. So this might be a 20, I don't know, 25, 28, something like that. Maybe a 28. Seems similar to my other fabric that I have, which I know is a 28. So yeah, this was just like kind of a long piece. And yeah, I have 2 of them going. Actually, it was one long one. I just cut it in half. And I also have some of this gingham stuff that I'm planning on. I'm basically just refabricating that thing and stitching the stuff that is printed. And yeah, I kind of went also a little bit nerdy and crazy on this one. And I actually, how do I start? Ah, man, that was one thing I wanted to do before I started recording this, but hey ho, I forgot. But let me just show you what I have. So far, I have rohe Weihnachten. Not quite. It's just rare or raw Christmas, I guess. So I'm stitching on the R, and there's going to be a capital F in front of this. And as I'm showing this, I'm already realizing it's much narrower than the piece I'm trying to mimic. But yeah, it's obviously a very different font and stuff, but I think it's really nice. So there's like, this is 2/1 too, but I have like these little motifs, the little stars and things. And what I did here, I actually found a pattern on Etsy, and I'll link it below because I'm blanking on the name. And I took the letters from that, but since that one's a English sampler and it says Merry Christmas, I didn't have all the letters that I need for Frohe Weihnachten. So I tried to find like a font on dafont.com, I think, that kind of looked similar to the font I had on that sampler, and got the letters that I still needed, and then tried to convert them. Like definitely the W, for instance. W I didn't have. So I had to kind of make it work, look like it flowed with the rest of the letters. Kind of in the same style. And I don't know, you tell me if you can tell which letters are part. I mean, you can know. You know what Merry Christmas is spelled like, and I guess then you can figure out which letters I had and which ones I didn't. But I'm pretty happy. I like how this is looking. And yeah, I have to stitch this again. So I have a second panel, which I also want to stitch this on. And I think I'm just going to take it step by step and see how far I'll take it. I don't think I'll do the whole embroidery thing. What I'm planning on doing, because the sampler does contain a lot of other things and motifs, so I think I just want to stitch a few of those, like in these 3 areas I have here. The original blanket also has a few stars here, so it's probably something I'll do, and has this border. So I'll probably do that as well. But I'm not sure kind of in what order. And maybe you guys can tell me. Maybe some of you already did this. What is better? What's the safer route? Do I sew first and then stitch? Or do I stitch like this border, for instance? Is it more dangerous to stitch this and then sew over and then F up? Is it easier to fudge after with the stitching? But I guess not, because the stitching will have to follow a straight line no matter what. So maybe it's even easier to sew after, because then you have a very clear straight line to follow your stitching. Or like next to it anyways. I guess I kind of answered my own question right now, but that's kind of still something I was debating, and also how exactly to combine these. So the idea is to have this on one side, this on the other side, and then the red gingham in between. But this is pretty thick raw linen, and this stuff is pretty flimsy. So I don't know. I'll probably have to put some stabilizer behind this, but then it looks crappy from the other side and I don't have enough of this to back it again. I don't know. I do have more raw linen. I don't know, but I don't think it's enough again to cover the whole. I don't know. Maybe some of you have ideas. I'm trying to work with what I have. I'm trying to not buy more. Obviously, I could just buy more red gingham or even just a red fabric to back it with. Maybe I have a red fabric. Yeah, so I'm still kind of molding on how to put this together. Something so flimsy together with something that's fairly stiff and rustic. That it still looks good. Yeah. I don't know. I have to think on that. I'm just doing the stitching for now and then we'll see. Or I'll just keep it with one, you know? Maybe I'll just finish one thing and maybe decide that is enough. It doesn't have to be exactly like what I started with, like the table runner for my mom. I'm sure my aunt, and yeah, this is supposed to be for my aunt. I don't know if I actually said that. I did say that she said she liked it and got me the idea of stitching it for her. But yeah, that was the idea. Actually, I wanted to give it to her this year, or like this past year Christmas, but that clearly didn't happen because I only started it this year. But anyways, and then I could make one. Maybe I like that the most. I could just make a second one for us because I really do like how this looks. But yeah, the thing I wanted to say about the whole sampler, I mean, I know there's a big community out there who's just stitching samplers and loves to stitch samplers with all the alphabet and all the motifs and whatnot, and they just stitch it as is. But to me, the word sampler, and I haven't really looked into history of samplers, but it sounds to me that actually those were originally designed for you to sample off that pattern into projects like this. Like back then people did tablecloths, table runners, I don't know, kitchen towels and things like that. And I feel like they would write, and that's why the whole alphabet is there, that you can just write everything that you want and have different motifs you can sample from your sampler and put on your finished designs. Is that where samplers? It must be. That must be where samplers comes from and how they were originally used. I'm just curious why people now just stitch the whole thing instead of creating. I don't know. That sounds a little bit cocky. I'm sorry. I don't want to come off cocky or anything. I'm virtually just thinking about this and like, isn't that originally how samplers were thought to be used? I don't know. I mean, I guess I get it. I get why people stitch the whole thing. They really look nice, and I guess nowadays they're just designed to look nice as a thing. But I have the feeling back in the day, samplers were called samplers because people would sample their patterns to make their own designs for, yeah, tablecloths and things like that. So I don't know. I guess I have some reading to do on that, but that crossed my mind a few times when I was sampling from my sampler. But yeah, so this is my table runner project. I could tell you a percentage on this, but I'm basically done. I'm missing one letter on this, and that's all the percentage I can tell you, and the rest I'll have to kind of make up as I go. Yay. So let me throw this out. That already brings me to my third and final whip, but I already knew this. I'm a talker. I'm sorry. I usually don't have a whole lot of projects to show, but I like to talk about these things because I don't really have anybody here. And that's why I also decided to make a Flosstube, because I mean, my husband appreciates these things, especially my knitting. Like, he likes receiving knitted sweaters and stuff, and he's very knit-worthy and stuff. But, like, I think even with cross-stitch, I'm getting even further away from something he can grasp. So it's very hard to talk to him and actually, you know, share the excitement kind of thing. It's more like, nice, cool, I'm glad you're having fun. Okay, can I go about my day now? So yeah, it just feels nice to just ramble on about this and know that the people who are watching this actually share the excitement and are kind of as crazy about the stuff as I am, which you will see with my next project. And this one, I think, is even crazy for me. So my next project is a HAED, a heaven and earth design. And I'll blend in the picture of what the design that I purchased actually while Heaven and Earth Designs had their sale in the beginning of the year. I don't know if it's still going on, but they were selling off a lot of their patterns for half off, I think. I got this for $9. It's the Amazing Grace pattern by, like, the artist is Dave Bartlett. And yeah, I really fell in love with the design, or with, I don't know how to say this, with the background. I really love the background. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you'll know my favorite color is blue. I'm totally, anything blue goes, especially in yarns and pictures and clothes and anything. I just love blue. It's just my favorite color. And that's why I really, really like the background. And again, my story of I am struggling to find pictures that are actually worthy to put up my wall. But yeah, I was really, especially in the very beginning when I got into, in the very beginning, I mean, I'm still in the very beginning. It's like a month ago now. I really was interested in the whole full coverage thing, hence the HAED. It's really what got me really into the cross stitch, and I really wanted to start my own full coverage piece. And there's even a more long-winded story I could tell you, but maybe I'll just spare you this because it's there is just something else in the back works. And I thought, since this is such a long-term project and it involves a whole art project before I can turn it into a cross-stitch full coverage project that will take another 10 years to fulfill, I figured I needed something I can start stitching on right now. So I looked into the Heaven and Earth Designs because I knew they did full coverage and very big pieces, and they have a lot of artists. So I figured maybe I'll find something I really like. So I found this picture, Amazing Grace. Again, picture here. And I really, really liked it. But the part I did not like, for it to then eventually be ending up at my wall. And I was also thinking about my husband, because he's also living in this apartment and he also should like what he sees on our walls, was this swan. I don't know, I'm just not... A swan is this elegant person, and I don't consider myself very, very elegant. I don't know. We don't need to get into that, but... my husband is Canadian, and I thought it would be so cool if instead of the swan, I would have a loon. I'll just put up a picture of a loon so you know what I'm talking about. It's basically a big duck, a huge duck. I thought they're just the normal size of a duck or maybe a goose, but they're freaking as big as a penguin. I saw a stuffed out animal like in like one of those natural history museum type places. It was a very small one, but anyways, and it was like even my husband, who's been Canadian his entire life, yeah, haha, yes, of course, he was like surprised how big they actually are, because you always just see them in the distance and they have a very distinctive call. And anyways, I really like the loon. And he liked the idea too, to have kind of that picture, but instead of the swan, a loon. But how do you do that? So I did purchase the pattern, and I went about this a million different ways. I don't know how many versions of that pattern with a loon and with a swan I have in my pattern keeper now or on my computer. I'm an engineer. I'm very computer nerdy. I love that kind of stuff. Like, I spend hours working on this just in front of my computer. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm fringing on slightly obsessed crazy with this, and it's annoying myself right now because I just want to stitch on it, but I can't stitch on it because I'm still on my computer stage. I did start stitching on this, but I don't know. This is getting weird. Anyways, so what I did, I purchased the pattern. Basically just thinking, I just want to purchase the pattern so I kind of have the right on the picture. I don't really have the right on the picture, but what I ended up doing, because it's an actual artwork, right, from the from Dave Bartlett, which you can also buy just prints off and stuff. So I just looked online to find the picture of that, and basically just did a screenshot of the picture to then put in my photo editing software to crop out the swan, put in a loon, and then use a cross stitch software to pixelate it. That was the general idea, the easy idea. And I had that done actually fairly quickly. That wasn't very hard for me, because I used the same software back when I did the diamond painting, because I think the diamond painting software actually kind of was started as a cross-stitch software, and they developed it into a diamond, because it's the same idea. You in the edges have a picture that you pixelate, and you have DMC colors attached to those pixels. So yes. Same thing. Anyway, so I used my diamond painting software actually to pixelate it and put it on in Pattern Keeper and actually started stitching. And that's what this is. And maybe I'll just show you this so you guys can see something and don't watch just me ramble on, because I'm sorry, there's gonna be a lot of rambling coming. If you didn't already have enough, there's more. So this is what I started. So I started stitching this on 28 count even weave. I think this is a Lugana. I would have to look up. I think it might be a Zweigart. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll put the information on screen. But yes, so I started stitching in this corner because everybody seemed to start at the top left corner. But then I realized, since I do stitch in hand, when I bought all the ingredients for this, I also got myself a Q-snap, because everybody was raving about the Q-snap and it looked so easy and simple. I know back with the Poisonous Plants projects, I tried stitching in a hoop. I just didn't like it. I did the sewing method for that one already. I did it for the Haunted Carousel. But for this one, I thought maybe with a Q-snap I get on better. But I tried it for like 2 nights, I think, and I was like, no, I just don't like it. It seems too slow for me. I don't know if it is actually slower, but you can't sew. With the sewing method, the whole appeal for me is that you stick it in and at the same time you also stick it out. You have you find 2 holes at the same time, because otherwise you stick it through and then you have to kind of fiddle around and find the hole where you're coming back out from the back. You can't really see, you kind of have to just feel. So you have to have good lighting from underneath, basically, so you can see your needle better where it's coming up. And I never have that. I mean, I'm happy enough that I'm stitching on my couch, that I have good lighting now from above. I'm actually using a small crappy ring light instead of my nice big one that I have, that I got for my knitting podcast. But I use it as my cross stitch light right now, and it's so in the corner there that I didn't want to bother taking it out. But I hope the lighting's okay. I'm a little side lit too, because I'm in a different corner of my room, because it was always so echoey and I wanted to swap my location anyway. So yeah. You tell me, I mean, my old subscribers, if you're still here, you're probably already tuned out. Like, if you're not even into cross-stitch, I don't see why you would be still listening. But anyway, so I ended up starting from the other corner because it just makes more sense with the sewing method, working from right to left instead of left to right. So yeah, and I think I made decent progress. I think that's about 2,000 stitches that are in here that I did. Since the beginning of the year. But yeah, then I stopped. I would probably be way further. But, so again, I bought... Ooh. Oh yeah, look, there's another homemade needle minder. It's very childish motifs, because I bought this for my daughter originally. So I just used the big items. There were like bigger and smaller ones. The big ones I used to make these needle minders. So yeah, so what happened? So again, I bought this HAED design only basically to feel a bit better of using the picture, right? To kind of pay money, and I know HAED will probably continue giving some of the money to the artist, which is in the end what I'm using, right? I'm using the artist's picture. So that's why I bought the pattern. So I never actually put it into Pattern Keeper, But then I did, for some weird reason, I decided to just put the HAED pattern into Pattern Keeper and see. And then just let me show you what I saw and then what kind of started my slight crisis with this project. So, hang on, how do I do this? Vorschau. So this is how the preview of the one I charted looked like. And you can already see my Loon cut out there. That's a story I'll get to. And then this is the preview of the swan, which obviously looks nicer because you can actually see the bird right now. But the other thing that's much nicer, and maybe I'll cut those two pictures next to one another that you can actually see what I mean. But the contrast in the HAED is just much better. I felt like, I mean, even though I love blue, mine is just too bluey blue. And in the HAED one is kind of blue and gray and blue grays and stuff. So I just like the effect of the background way more. The other difference though is that the HAED is way more stitches. So I think the HAED, hang on, how many stitches does that one have? Is 400 by 520 stitches, and the one I did, because I didn't want it that huge, is only 330 by 220, I think, is my size. Yes. So that was my conundrum I had then. So I realized that the HAED colors are just much nicer. So, and I looked through like the threads that what they're using and what amounts they're using their colors, and they were very different to mine. They're very similar colors, but they just used way more gray also in their chart than me. I mainly have blues. I can show you all my thread I have with this, that I kitted up with this. I didn't buy everything yet. It's not fully kitted up. I kind of just got parts of it, but this is my colors basically. And man, it makes me super happy seeing this. It looks like a lot of red. It's probably going to be 9 stitches in red by the end, because just the eye of the loon is red. They're really cool birds. They're like black and white, and then they have a red eye, which is pretty crazy looking. So yeah, you can see I also have like browns and blue greens and stuff, but there's a lot of blue. I mean, I have full skeins here, so this doesn't really represent the actual color usage of each color. This, so I just bought the color and put the full skein on here. But yes, still, you get an idea of what colors are used in this chart. And they're very similar to the HAED one, but again, the HAED has more grays. It's weighing heavier on the grays, and also just the contrast. The contrast just works much better. So, but from my HAED cross stitch, I actually only had the PDF, obviously. I had nothing actually digital. I didn't have like an Excel of my colors or anything. So I think the past week, I spent every evening, probably like 3 to 4 hours. Ugh, I can't believe it myself that I did this. But I basically transformed the HAED chart into Excel that I had like those 500 by however many cells, 300 something to the side. I first had the symbols, and then I translated the symbols into DMC colors. Those I imported into, and now I'm gonna lose every single viewer. Goodbye. I put it into Matlab, which most of you probably never even heard of, but it's a math program. And I turned it into RGB values, red, green, and blue. And then I resized, and that was the whole thing. I didn't want to stitch it that big. I didn't want to stitch it that big. So I had to downsize the HAED. And it didn't work. I tried lots of ways. I actually, you don't even want to know. I tried like going through Photoshop, kind of increasing the dark contrast, changing the colors of the picture and putting it through that cross stitch software again, the pixelating, where I can just choose how big I want it. It just all didn't work. So what I ended up, I just took the HAED and tried to downsize it. So I had it in Matlab. I had all the thing, and that was the biggest job in Matlab themselves. And I had, that's like you basically have like a matrix, it's called. You just have a bunch of numbers, and then you can just average them out to whatever size you want. And there's basically just one easy function where I can say, okay, take this whole big thing and then give it to be smaller in whatever grid size I wanted. So I chose the same size I had this one designed into. So the 330 by 220 thing. And that's what that program gave me. I mean, I had to program it myself. It doesn't work quite as easily, but whatever. Again, I'm an engineer. I work with that kind of stuff every day. So that wasn't such a feat. But the feat was just converting the PDF into numbers in Excel, because the PDF only has the weird symbols, right? That was, and the biggest issue was because it's not actually full coverage everywhere. There's like these white parts where you have like the splatters of the watercolor paint, and the paper, the white paper that's still coming through, you don't stitch actually. And that really screwed up the whole thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been that difficult actually, because you can mark text on a PDF and copy that into whatever Word or Excel or text file thing you want. But the spaces in between, the no stitch cells, they got totally effed up. So I had to always count those white spaces down and make it all fit into that. You don't want to know. You don't need to know. Anyways, long story short, and it's a really long story in the background here, it worked. So I actually have it. I don't have it in Pattern Keeper yet to show you. Maybe I can insert a picture of my final mock-up that I'll have here in Pattern Keeper. And Jesus, I hope to God it actually did work, because I guess the only time I saw it not working was in my Pattern Keeper, where you have like all the colors together. But yeah, I think it must be, because it's based on the HAED DMC colors. It's only using those colors. I only gave the program the same colors to choose from. So yes, here we are. Hours and hours of work later, and not a single stitch on that project, on the new project. So I'll obviously I have more of that fabric. I had to buy a whole 140 meter cut length, and I think by a half meter or something. So I'll cut a new piece, and because I don't think I want to rip that out. I really don't think so. I'll probably just reuse that for later projects probably. And leave the stitches as it, because I don't think I can kind of merge what I already have into what I want. I think that'll be even more pain that I really don't need right now. I just want to start on that project. But yeah, just quickly to note on the whole fact that the mock-up you just saw had a white loon in there. That's because I'm planning on stitching the actual loon. So I'm stitching 2 over 2 on 28 count, the background, and I'm planning to stitch the loon 2 over 1. Just to get more detail, because the loon, here maybe I can show you the mock-up of the loon now. I don't know why I'm showing this on my phone. It's much easier to just put up a picture, but here. So the loon has these stripes on his neck, and you just could not see that in the mock-up in the coarser resolution. So I was like, I'll just stitch that 2 over 1 on the 28 count, but that obviously that software couldn't handle 2 resolutions in the same picture. So I have that in separate charts. So I don't know if I'll mark it out on the page, or if I'll just, like, that was kind of what I was doing there. I was stitching my way with the background to wherever the loon started, and then my plan was to then just stitch out the loon, and then even if it didn't match up completely, I mean, the background is just blue. In the end, it's just a blue mix of blue. So I figured if it doesn't quite add up, I just add a few blue stitches to fill out wherever it doesn't match up. But yes, so that's the whole thing on this project, and really hoping the next time I'll record I have something something to show. I did start with this first version stitching the 1/1 part, and yeah, I had, because this is an even weave, it's not an Aida, I had the issue of my threads slipping underneath the threads of the fabric, and was getting slightly frustrated with that. And also, like, I don't know, if you're used to count 2/2, it was very difficult for me to kind of flip my brain, switch my brain to then count just a 1. For some reason, it was very hard for me to, I don't know why, but to kind of see which holes I needed to stitch in. But I did watch a few YouTube videos, tips on stitching over 1, and they seem to be aware of that issue of the thread slipping underneath, and their tips are supposed to prevent that. So I haven't tried that yet. I really hope that those tips will help, because otherwise I'm basically back at square one with that project. If I can't stitch that thing over 1, I might end up just having to go up in size and stitching over 2, but everything to a resolution to where the loon will then come out properly over 2 instead of over 1, which basically then I probably could have saved myself a lot of work trying to change that HAED charge to a smaller grid size, because then I probably could have just stitched kind of a HAED background and then plopped the loon in and didn't have to convert that. But oh well. That's where we are, and I feel like I talked way too much already, and I don't think we need to get into the whole of the plans. I am not all planned out with like Go and monthly plans and stitch counts and all that, because I have no statistics on myself yet. I have no clue how much I can stitch. I realized like some evenings I managed to stitch up to 400 stitches, so that's, I guess, the top I can aim for at the moment anyways, to stitch daily. But eventually I do want to get back into knitting, so I really don't want to set myself unobtainable goals and get stressed out about this. I get stressed out about things already way enough, so I don't need that stress with my hobby. So I think I'll just stitch on whatever strikes my fancy, and hopefully get started on my loon. I'm calling it the Amazing Loon, not the Amazing Grace. But yes, and let me know what you think about this. Like, I don't know, am I okay buying the HAED pattern and then kind of totally revamping it? Like, does it seem like it's wrong? I don't know. I always feel like very iffy with these things, and but my brain is so complicated sometimes. I'm not satisfied with the things as they come. I always have the urge to change stuff, but then I don't know how people feel about changing patterns and things. I know in the knitting world, lots of designers are happy when you change their designs. So I don't know, is that the same in the cross stitch world, or is it copyright infringement? I mean, I'm not selling it or anything. I bought the pattern and I changed it, and that's how I'm hoping this is okay. You guys tell me. I don't want to cross any weird boundaries and rules that I'm not aware of. But yes, so I hope you guys are still here if you made it to the end. Thank you for bearing with me and my nerdy endeavors. Oh look, the battery's running out. Isn't that perfectly on time? So yeah, without further ado, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.